Hello, I'm Dana Nye, your host for this third in the series, Makeup for the Theater. If you've already been viewing these videos in sequence, you know that we've discussed doing straight makeups, aging, and some special effects. If you've missed any of these lessons, you may want to view them. We'll be expanding on and using many of the techniques we've already demonstrated. Our first lesson is applying a bald cap. It looks hard, but with a little practice, you'll begin to wonder what all the fuss was about. And the beauty of it is that the effect created is very startling. Patricia Messina is our makeup artist, and our model is Mark Yammer. Patricia is a professional makeup artist and a good friend of mine. Her TV credits include Day by Day, Brothers, The Kavanaughs, and My Sister Sam. Today she's going to fit Mark Yammer with the bald cap. Mark dances professionally as a member of the Mary Jane Eisenberg Dance Company. So let's cap this sucker.
Okay, Dana. Well, we've begun by already preparing Mark's hair. What we've used is just a simple styling gel and a fine-tooth comb, and we've combed it as close to the head as possible. And what you want to do after that is use either alcohol or some sort of an astringent. I'm using some sea breeze, and just go around the hairline and make sure that you get it very, very clean. Remove any oils, and this will make your cap go on with a lot more ease, and it will stick to the skin. And again, just straight alcohol is fine, particularly if you're very oily.
Mark has helped us out for this bald cap demonstration by having his hair cut. I note that if an actor or even an actress has long hair, you can still put the cap down. It's just a matter of putting the styling gel in the hair, combing it back, and if the hair is long in the back, it can be rolled into a like a bun, or basically flat. And all of the excess hair is going to be hidden in the back of the cap. There happens to be lots of room back there, isn't there?
Yes, Dana. Also, something I'd like to mention is getting the area around the ear as clean as possible in terms of the hair. Now, you may want to use clippers. You can use this on the nape of the neck to remove any superfluous hair. And once again, this is important for adhesion of the bald cap. And we're going to try this on. Mark, go ahead and hold the front of this with your two fingers. Yes.
This is one project where your model can really help out. You'll see Patricia asking Mark to help in a number of crucial places during the course of the fitting. Some actors might not like the feeling of having their head encapsulated like this, so when they help, it seems to take some of the mystery out of it.
That's true, Dana. For a first-time cap wearer, it can be almost a claustrophobic feeling.
Yeah.
And so having your actor become involved, help you out as much as possible, gives him a feeling of ease. Now this is plenty big, and we'll have lots of room. I want to just check the hairline and see if I want to make any cuts to just go with the form of his face. And you may want to have your actor wrinkle his brow. Go ahead. Wrinkle up. And just to see where you might want to have this cap fall into the folds, if you can make it do that, you'll be able to hide it a lot easier. And what I'm going to do is take a medium brown pencil and just lightly sketch where I'd like to cut this bald cap a little bit so that it won't interfere with these facial muscles. Okay, relax.
You might find that if your actor has very large wrinkles on the forehead, that the bald cap can be cut to fit right into one of those wrinkles. It's a nifty way of helping to hide that front edge.
Now, the direction that you will pull this bald cap on in is straight down and forward. And you're going to pull it just like a rubber band and stretch it as much as possible. And this is the fit that you want to get. So you want to do this and just see how it's going to be. And go ahead and hold with a flat hand one side. Go ahead and hold the other side for now. That's good. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
By using the flat of
this.
his palm,
I'll hold this side.
by using the flat of his palm, he's able to put quite a bit of pressure on the cap, almost equal to that which Patricia used, and this allows her to mark the cap. This is real critical, what we're doing right now.
What I'm doing now, Dana, is drawing a U shape from the edge of the cap all the way up and around about 1/4 of an inch in from the ear. And of course you can see the ear through this bald cap very clearly. And he's still holding the other side taut. And it's okay to have to cut the cap additionally later, so it's better to cut it less than more if you're unsure.
Mm-hmm. Once you cut that too much, you can never add more back to it.
That's right. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and have Mark hold this side. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want your actor to turn or pivot his neck very much. So what Mark's going to do for the sake of this demonstration is just turn around in his chair so that he's sideways this way.
Okay.
Just so that you can all see as we draw this. I've still got a hold of it. And don't be afraid to pull. Now I've got it pulled tight, and I'm just going to mark this ear. From the edge of the cap, 1/4 of an inch in from the edge of the ear, around in a U, and straight back out again.
The angle of the line going out towards the edge of the cap is basically parallel to that of the jawline.
This is true. Okay. Sorry, you can let go now.
Okay.
Now you can let go with the pressure. And let's start with this side. What we're going to do with I like to use a blunt nose scissors. And put your fingers underneath the cap. Make sure you know what you're cutting. I like to put them all the way up underneath so I know I'm not going to cut his ear. And just start with a small snip. And don't stretch it as you cut the cap.
Because that'll distort your cut.
And just follow your pencil line around. Go ahead and turn just your body.
Don't worry that you marked your cap. That pencil line will quickly disappear once you put a base tone on it after it's completely glued down. Be cautious, be careful. These caps are actually pretty reasonably priced, but nonetheless, it's something that can be reused if you're careful in removal.
Again, as I get close to the ear, I've slid my hand behind the cap, and I know exactly where his hair and his ear are. So there are no accidents.
Very
Okay,
nice.
That's one side. And this is eventually going to come down here and be stretched. Also, on this side, I'm going to go ahead and cut in at this edge where I've marked it with pencil.
That flap that you see there is called the sideburn flap. Mark has done us the favor today of having those sideburns clipped off. Nonetheless, if the sideburns were longer, we could pull that down and cover them pretty well.
And if you'd like to see how this is going to go, you can just pull it and take a look. Perhaps I may want to take just another little snip right in here by his eye. But I'm going to wait and see how the other side turns out. Okay, turn the body. Go ahead and keep coming this way. Good.
Okay. The cap is warmed up a little bit against Mark's skin, and you can start to see that it really has a translucent quality. After it's glued down, there'll be very little bit of blending that will be necessary, although there will be some. And we'll be using liquid latex to model and blend the edges. That's the easy part. This part is the one that requires a lot of attention, as I've said. And once you have it right, it's a lovely thing.
Okay, and finishing up the U shape, I'm going to hold this piece of material up just so that you can see the general shape of it. Okay.
I'd like to compliment Mark. He's, as a dancer, he's very poised, very patient, and he has been our model before, and he's very helpful in applying the cap. And if you have an actor that wears the cap more than once, I hope that you'll have somebody that's as good as Mark, because it really is helpful to have somebody that helps.
Now again, for eye movement, we're going to just take off the slightest edge here. Go ahead and turn front. Front. And it's actually okay if you cut a little jagged. It doesn't have to be a smooth edge, because this will all be blended. Okay, face front. Now sometimes with the warmth of the head and face, the cap will start to heat up, and you'll be able to see just how far you can stretch it. And I'm going to have Mark hold one side for me, this side. Got it?
Yeah.
And let me take a look at this side. Wait, that's too far. Let go for a second.
Both sides should be even, so that you don't have to compensate the shorter side by stretching extra far, which will make it much harder to glue. So we're making it even again. It's just normal.
What's happened is this has just slipped a little because of the warmth, which is fine. All you do is just bring it around into place. And I think we can trim a little more in the ear area, but okay, hold this side once more. Got it?
Yes.
Now don't pull down, just straight against the head. Good. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now can you hold this too?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to check the other side out. Hold it real, just flat against the head.
Mm-hmm.
Got it?
Yeah.
Mark, can you hear the ocean? Oh, never mind.
Okay. Keep your actor looking straight ahead as much as possible. It'll really help you out. Okay. You got that side pretty well?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this is going to be a pretty good fit.
Very nice.
What I'm going to do first is glue the front. So go ahead and let go. Now that I know we're even, I'm going to go ahead and have Mark hold the spirit gum. And I'm using a fairly wide brush. And I will be painting approximately 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in from the hairline. However, before I do this, I'm just going to make sure he's totally dry underneath.
Is that styling gel that seems to have moved on to his forehead?
No, I think it's just natural oils
A little
and the
perspiration.
heat of the cap,
Yeah.
because after all you're wearing a rubber, piece of rubber that's keeping the body heat in, so it tends to make
Yeah.
you warm.
You probably will discover that if you've had a lot of hair to put down with the styling gel, some of that gel may actually start to slip down the back of the cap.
That does happen.
And then you can vent it to let that liquid come out.
Actually, some of that probably is, Dana.
Okay, this is spirit gum. As you know, it's a adhesive used to primarily apply beards and mustaches.
Okay.
And it's a darn good material for putting down a bald cap like this.
A
This
nice
is-
wide strip.
It sure is, and that ought to be plenty to hold that front edge. I haven't mentioned this, but the cap itself was made out of latex rubber. A very, very thin layer of it.
What I'm going to do is just take the end of my brush handle, Dana, and just make sure that hair is going to lie down flat.
You might use a modeling tool, an orange stick, cuticle stick, anything that is handy to put any hair back that is getting in your way. Okay, now notice she's glued it down, and there's not, she didn't have to pull that front edge and stretch it. She just basically put it in place where it was. The rest of the cap will be stretched though, but the front edge pretty much lies as it was cut.
Tucking a little extra spirit gum right under the edge, Dana.
Don't skimp on your gum, because you want this to last, and if he's going to be wearing it for a production, it's got to last probably for up to 3-4 hours.
Okay, that's looking good so far. We're going to go ahead and glue one side.
Did you just pause a minute or so just to let it set up, get sticky?
Just to let it get tacky, but also, Dana, I've gone ahead and poured the spirit gum into a dish, and it's been sitting, which
Yeah.
is wonderful for skipping that step and just making it a little tacky.
Yeah, that's an old trick. Let that spirit gum dry out a little bit. There's a combination of alcohol and acetone in spirit gum
Can you?
and
Hold
resin.
with this
So
hand.
when you lose a little bit of the solvent, the material does get sticky.
This hand? Okay.
Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I've really got Mark working here. He's going to hold one side, and he's going to hold my spirit gum. You got that real well?
Yeah.
Now we're going to have you watch real carefully as we glue down this side of the cap.
Turn your
Time
body,
does not
your head.
allow us to show you the other side, just because this is a complicated process, but it repeats exactly. If you do find that when you pull the cap down on either side, and the contour of the cap around the ear is not large enough, you'll take your scissors and open it up a little bit. So on the other side, it'll be exactly the reverse. Mark will hold the palm of his hand against the ear and his sideburn, and Patricia will put the other side down. This is where the cap really starts to come together, and you feel like you've really accomplished something.
You can use your puff to just lightly push on it. Make sure you have a real good bond right here. And any excess can be trimmed in this area, so don't worry about having too much, only about having too little. And we're going to leave the other side of the ear to attach later. So just keep holding on to this until it's completely dry.
The puff here against the glued cap is very helpful. It provides nice, even pressure. You really don't want to put anything against the cap that might tear it. It's durable, yet it's thin, so it has a certain delicate quality to it. It's kind of like a balloon, isn't it?
It's true. Now, did we make it clear why he's holding the other side, Dana?
Well, because your hand, you've only got two hands, and he's stretching the other side so that the cap is evenly taut.
Right.
Is that correct, as I understand it?
Right.
Welcome back. We took about 15 minutes off to finish the other side of the cap. We'll switch over to Patricia here. She's just about ready to glue the back of it down.
Just want to show Dana this is the side that's glued on both sides, and we've just trimmed the slightest bit from the edge. It can be an uneven line, and that's just to finish it off. We really didn't need a lot of excess in this area. Okay, so now we're going to take our spirit gum and we're going to go ahead and paint a band starting from behind the ear.
It's about an inch below the hairline. It's a good width of gum, so it'll hold pretty well. We've got marks shifted around so you can see quite a bit. We just won't be able to show you the other side of the ear, but trust us, it goes all the way around.
And while we wait for that to set up, we're going to go ahead and trim the excess off the bottom, because you really don't need all this. This is going to go ahead and get pulled, don't forget, down and forward. So you see we have quite a bit left at the bottom. Now you could, if you wanted to, go ahead and tuck this in your costume, but we don't need it, so we're going to get rid of it. And we'll just let that spirit gum get tacky as we trim this excess.
Those little scissors are an excellent addition to your makeup kit. As you view these, the entire program, Makeup for the Theater, we've made a number of recommendations on extra items to buy for your kit. You see, there's just quite a section of rubber we didn't need. Those are scissors for cutting nostril hairs. They're rounded, soft-nosed scissors. Basically, you'd need 3 pairs of scissors to round out a kit. Utility scissors, hair cutting scissors, and these blunt nose scissors.
What I'm doing now, Dana, is just gently letting the cap make the spirit gum tacky. And before this is totally dry, I'm just going to come in with a little extra spirit gum.
Another way to make your gum tacky is you can take your finger and tap it, and when it starts to, when it's hard to lift your finger off the tacky gum, you know it's ready, and you can keep a little finger bowl of acetone close by if you do that, so your fingers don't stay sticky. Okay, she's pulling down
and forward, and at the same time I'm going to ask my actor, with his head straight ahead, to just gently tilt his head back towards me. A little bit more. Good.
This is to avoid a later wrinkle. So when he corrects his head and tilts forward in perhaps a more normal position, the cap goes even tauter and tighter, and this avoids a wrinkle in the back. Now, by pulling down and forward, this we hope will eliminate all of the wrinkles around the back. Now your costume is very likely going to cover the back up, so you might not have to spend quite as much time worrying about this. Take a look to see what your costume is like, and then you can determine how much you want to
straight
work on the back area. Those who have have very long hair might even let the hair run right down the back of the cap. So it's not altogether necessary to always glue it down. Is that right?
right.
Well, we're back from our second time cut. We've glued down the rear of the cap. It's holding very well. And you can see that right now. We're going to have Mark now rotate to the front, and we're going to finish the cap. The concern here now is to take liquid latex, stipple that along the leading edge here, and we're going to blend the rubber to the bald cap. The liquid latex we're using is basically the same material as the bald cap. Patricia's using a latex foam sponge to apply the rubber, and in a minute we'll just use a hairdryer to make it set. A little bit farther down on the skin, I think. Now, a couple layers is probably what is required here. And the rubber can go all the way along the curvature here of the over to the ear.
Now, so that Mark doesn't have to turn his head, which you don't want to do so that the back doesn't pop and you don't make wrinkles, I'm going to hand Dana the latex and he's going to do his side. And I'll start with the blow dryer, just to hurry along this process.
This is a stippling process. Now, the heat of the sponge stippling the material on starts to set your rubber up, so be careful that you don't stipple too much. Let it dry on its own. This particular latex has a slight flesh tone, but it dries clear. This is a very important part because it really helps to fool the audience as to where the bald cap starts and stops. This can easily end up as a two-person process. However, if you're not in a hurry, just one person is sufficient. This is an excellent type of hair dryer to use for drying the liquid latex because it isn't one of those real hot ones. If you're using one of those high wattage ones, there's a chance that you might actually burn the face, and you don't want to do that.
Okay, what we're doing now is just using on a velour puff some translucent powder over the edge. Helps you kind of see any imperfections that you may have that you'd like to adjust, and helps blend the edge.
Let's use one more. As it turns out, the actual thickness of the cap varies. So after you powder and you see that you need a little more rubber, go right back in and work on anything else that's disturbing you. Now's the time, go ahead. Now's the time to make these adjustments before you put on the makeup. Start drying my side. We're going to powder one more time, and then we're going to seal the cap with material called caster sealer. This allows us to avoid the use of rubber mask grease, which is heavy, greasy, and requires a lot of powder. Sometimes the colors aren't that good either. With caster sealer all over the entire cap plus the liquid latex that we stippled on, we're going to avoid that. We'll be able to use any cream color that we'd like. Patricia is putting the caster sealer out in a dish. I'm going to take a section of sponge, and we're going to take the sealer. We're going to put a micro layer of the material over the cap, onto the rubber, and make sure that you just have the minimum, because this is just a protective coating. Now, what happens if you don't use the caster sealer? Well, a cream-based makeup will turn rubber dark. So most of the companies that you're probably using have a cream-based type makeup, and it will turn rubber dark. This could be a pre-made latex prosthetic or a cap, or let's say you use our wrinkle stipple around the eyes. It would turn a little dark. It would discolor it a little bit. So
that would, of course, draw attention to the fact that you've got an appliance and it's not just skin.
now, what you can do is, I suggest taking another surface of a dry surface of the sponge. You can just go over the head and just make sure that you remove any excess oil that might be there. Then we're going to powder and apply the foundation. Okay, thank you. The powder is the fair translucent. It's a fine light powder. It has a little bit of a peach tint to it. One of the components of the powder is light and fluffy like bath powder. Another component is very clingy. So a little bit lasts a long time, and it's light, very light. But it does a lot. Now, you can do this to your puff and really set that cap quickly.
Right in here too, Dana.
Okay.
Okay, what I'd like to show is my favorite way of applying the base, and that is to cut a rectangular shape from your latex foam sponge. And what I'm going to do, instead of cutting it, is to just simply grab it on both edges and pull it apart. Okay?
Great. Gives you a nice uneven surface, and it's great for putting on the foundation. The foundation we're going to use is the L5. It's the Tan Rose.
And the motion we're going to be using is a straight up and down tapping. And the reason we're doing that is so that because a lot of this ball cap is smooth, we won't get streaks. We'll get texture, if anything, but never streaks.
Now, though, this is a cream base style foundation. It has just enough oil to make it spread. It's densely pigmented, so a little bit goes a long ways. And you can see how nicely the cream base covers the bald cap, and the hair in several spots shows through. The thicker the hair, probably the more that it will show through underneath the cap, but this does a very nice job in covering. So you really don't need a heavy makeup over the bald cap. This is a tapping, stippling motion, and this is the L5. It's the darkest color in the L series. And we can actually take the base down onto Mark's face, eyelids, just to draw the whole thing together. You might say, how many, if we were just doing a face, a lot of people wonder how many faces can you do with one of these half-ounce containers. Well, it's about 50. You might be able to stretch it out even more if you're careful not to put it on with a putty knife, so to speak.
How many bald heads is that, Dana?
How many bald heads? That's about 26 3/4, maybe. It's a lot of bald heads.
I'm going to go ahead and bring this base onto the face, and of course then you can use your nice sweeping motion.
Okay, obviously you're going to take the base tone all the way around. And we're going to powder. Then we're going to go to a wheel of colors, or a palette of colors, called the bald cap stipple wheel. And Patricia's going to lay in a texture that is really absent at this point. You know, if you've noticed your skin, or the skin of others, it's loaded with lots of different colors, a lot of different textures. And so it's important that we add that back to this surface. It's kind of like what you do when you finish an old age makeup. You add a texture. It's like a spatter on the back of a set or a backdrop.
And this also helps to camouflage the edge and draw the eye away from the fact that you may or may not have a bald cap on there. So you want to go ahead and bring this texture right into the face. For instance, on the nose area, I'm applying the maroon stipple across the cheeks and right up straight into the bald cap.
Meanwhile, I'm going to apply the powder down on Mark's face. We're going to leave it as basically a uncompleted canvas. You would highlight, shadow, age him, highlight him, as you would a normal makeup. And I'm sure that many of you have seen our program on the straight male makeup or the beauty makeup, and you would have already seen the techniques that we covered for those two makeups.
I'm also going to utilize all 4 of these colors, Dana. These are all wonderful stippling colors. And I'll hand this to you for you to do your side. This same procedure can be used to add hair stubble. In other words, if your character is shaving his head, you can bring that into it using the same technique with a darker color. What would you use, Dana? A dark brown?
Well, you could go with the dark brown. Now, in this wheel, the color, there are 2 colors that could be used for that kind of stipple. There's the forest green or the steel gray. Both could be a residual color of the hair follicles coming through. And I'll use a little bit of this light ochre shade. This is kind of like a freckle color. And perhaps a little bit of the steel gray as well.
Those are great colors, Dana.
Well, they really are effective. Now, have you powdered your side?
Yep.
Okay. Now, I'm going to get lots of powder on my puff because I don't want to disturb the stippling that we've created here. So I'm going to take the puff, and this is one of the few times, I'm actually using more powder than Patricia used, but we can remove the excess powder. With a normal foundation, with a normal makeup, you'd never use this much powder. But you want to make sure that it's completely set. And so it's okay for you to use this amount. But you will want to lightly brush it away. And of course, you can brush it away with a little brush like this.
That big powder brush works nicely too,
Well,
and you can tap.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've showed that before, and it really is a nice way to remove the extra powder. Well, Mark's bald cap is now complete. Let's recap the materials we used. We used the latex bald cap, hairstyling gel, fine-tooth comb, razor for neck, spirit gum brush, grease pencil, blunt scissors, acetone, liquid latex, castor sealer, fair translucent powder, tan rose foundation, stipple sponge, and bald cap stipple. No, it's not easy. Like any other makeup, it takes practice and patience. But if you work at it, you'll find that it goes quicker and looks better with each application. The cap can be dressed with things like horns, space antenna, or even hair like a mohawk or a friar's ring. Put a beard on this character and you have a completely different look. Thanks for being with us for Ben Nye's Makeup for the Theater.